everybody. What's going on? Welcome to the RotoWorld DFS Pick 6, presented by RotoGrinders. I'm Eric Crane. Once again, week 6, I'm joined by the crew. We got Rich Reber. We got Evan Silva. Reebs, how we doing, man?
Man, what's going on, guys? It's hard to kind of believe it's week 6 already. You know, we're closing in on these big-time bye weeks that are coming up. It's like mid-October already. Like, everyone's like decorating for like Halloween, like getting everything. Like, my wife wants to put stuff up. There's leaves falling in my yard. I got rake leaves now. It's just not ideal, man. It's blowing by.
Wait, hold on. So what's the Reebs costume for Halloween?
Oh, I just go now.
So wait, no, the wife doesn't dress you up or anything?
Oh, no, man. We got kids. We take them around, do the whole
I know.
family.
You don't have like a family kid thing that you put on?
No. I don't go out like that, man.
See, we're doing something this year.
I pass out candy.
That you're a real American hero there, Reeves. We got Evan Silva. Evan, what I'm going to go out on a limb and say Evan's not much of a dress up for Halloween kind of guy.
Nah, man. Just coming off a good week, and I'm really looking forward this week to seeing Julio Jones just dominate between the 20s.
No.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited.
No.
I know he's got it. It looks like based on his past game logs that he somehow loses the fear of the end zone when he plays Tampa Bay, though. That could be good. That could be a good indicator. You know, he's just afraid of the end zone. But when he's playing teams that dress in the ugliest uniforms in the NFL, somehow he loses that fear. So it's possible that's predictive, but I'm guessing that he just dominates between the 20s.
Please God, we need an air yards based on opponent's jersey color model. Let's get that going. Frisco Josh, for you out there, defenses don't matter, as you know. Let's go ahead and talk about the color of the jersey. We'll get that going now. All right, let's go ahead and go into our first game, because that's what Evan's already talking about. It's Tampa Bay and Atlanta. It's a total of 57.5. Atlanta, they're 3.5-point favorites. And Evan, you buried the lead because I'm sitting here looking at Julio this week. This is the week. If a team gives up 6 touchdown passes to Mitch Trubisky, I'm going to assume that Julio Jones can get in the box. Reeves, come on board, buddy. You're with me, right?
Yeah, this is the same spot last year that kind of awakened Julio's, long slumber. He's now gone 62 straight regular season completions without a touchdown. And the last came in this game at home against Tampa Bay. Evan kind of talked about he has like really great splits against Tampa Bay, especially at home, where he's caught 46 of 60 targets for 813 yards in 6 games. He has 10 touchdowns against the Buccaneers in his career. That's basically a quarter of his career touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, this is the spot. If it's not here, then when is it going to be, man?
It'll probably be against the Jaguars or some really tough matchup where nobody plays them. I mean, that's just how this seems to work every single week.
He's still going for like 160 this game, though. Maybe no touch.
10 for 160, and I'm calling he gets in the box because, well, I've been calling it every single week, and eventually I'm going to be right. So we obviously like Julio Jones here. He's going to put up the yards. He's going to put up the catches. Evan, we've got Matt Ryan. He's the most expensive quarterback over on DraftKings. Is he worth it this week in this matchup?
No, because you can get Jameis Winston for just a little bit above the min.
It makes no sense whatsoever what they've done with that pricing.
Right. I don't know. I mean, maybe that'll translate to Matt Ryan being real low owned. But I think that Jameis Winston is going to end up being he deserves to be a super popular cash game play. People forget that Jameis Winston just crushed it in the last 5 games last year, 317-yard average, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He looked incredible in the preseason as well under this new play caller, Todd Monken, who has a history with Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. He went to Oklahoma State where they run the air raid, and he had never coached in the air raid before. And he learned it on the fly. And then he parlayed that into a college head coaching job. I believe it's Southern Miss, and they ran the air raid there. And he winds up as the wide receivers coach in Tampa Bay, works his way up. Now he's the OC. He's been calling plays for the Buccaneers, and they've been operating at a highly efficient rate, of course, until facing like arguably the best defense in football on the road at Soldier Field in week 4. Ryan Fitzpatrick ends up getting benched. Jameis comes in with, turns it over a couple times. I don't care. He has been playing at a really high level. Really, all these quarterbacks in the Bucs offense since Todd Monken became the play caller, all the quarterbacks have been functioning at a very, very high level, even on down to Ryan Griffin, their third-string quarterback who tore up the preseason. He was a guy that you wanted to play in preseason DFS. Jameis Winston also has a great history against Dan Quinn's defense. He's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback in 3 of 5 career starts against Dan Quinn's defense since Dan Quinn became the Falcons head coach, and a top 12 fantasy quarterback in 4 of the 5. And Dan Quinn's defense has never been as weak as it is now. I really like, you could set this at 60, and I think that I would still take the over on the total for this game. I mean, I think it's going to really live up to the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to imagine either of these defenses stopping the other team. And, what does that mean? That means that we can pretty much play anybody from this game. So, Reeves, obviously we like Julio. We like Jameis Winston. Who are some of the guys that you're making sure you target, Reeves?
I mean, everyone. We spend more time talking about who we don't want to play in this game.
But enough about Logan Paulson.
I mean, everyone is on the table, like Evan said. I mean, you look at both these teams. We talked about last week, the Falcons. The last 4 games have gone 55, 80, 73, 58 total points. The Bucs 4 games have gone 88, 48, 57, 58. Everything is set up. These teams have a history of playing shootouts already, even when it wasn't lined up. I mean, their last 5 meetings in Atlanta have combined for 55.2 points. It's set up for just a beautiful spot. I mean, Mike Evans has a great history along with, Jameis against Dan Quinn's defense. He averages almost 19 PPR points per game against them in his career. We got on the Bucs side or the Falcons side. I mean, you can keep playing Sanu. He's been like a top 30 guy 3 weeks in a row. He's had 7 or more targets in each of the past 3 games. Who isn't in play? I mean, I guess we can talk about OJ Howard if he's going to play.
Devontae Freeman.
Devontae Freeman is definitely
and
not
all
in
the
play.
Bucs running backs.
Okay. Yeah,
let's talk about the Bucs.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
There's been a lot in the fantasy community, the past couple of days about defense does not matter, and I'm not stoking those flames, but literally when slates come out. And we're in the 6th week of the season, so things I'm looking for already this season. Already, when I circle things out, I go immediately straight is who's playing the Eagles, because no one can run on the Eagles. Last year it was game script induced. This year the Eagles have trailed for the 3rd most snaps in the NFL. Teams still can't run them, and teams don't try to run. They lost Rodney McLeod. Their secondary is terrible. I look to see who the Eagles are playing. Does that team have functional wide receiver play? Are they good? I'm going to elevate those players. Who's playing the Kansas City Chiefs? Not because their defense is bad, because I want to target running backs. They are absolutely horrendous against the run, where linebackers can't cover anyone in pass coverage. Some of that is game script induced, the volume that they see in the passing game, but Anthony Hitchens, Reggie Ragland, these guys are horrendous in space. I look to see who they're playing. This week they play a guy like James White. It's an auto smash spot for a guy that's already involved in his offense to that degree. And who's playing the Atlanta Falcons, because they're in the same boat. They play that cover 3 we talk about every week. They want to allow a bunch of underneath, targets and make tackles in that cover 3 defense. But when you're talking about matchups, they need to be something that you arrive to after your icing on the cake that elevates a player. You have to be able to start with something functional with the player first, and you can't just play matchup alone. And that's what we have here with this Tampa Bay backfield. They are averaging a combined 67 yards per scrimmage per game. That is dead last in the NFL. To give you an idea, the gap of how bad that is, the Arizona Cardinals are 31st. They're at 92 yards per game, basically a 25 full yard difference per game than the Bucs backfield. The only way you can talk about either of these guys, Peyton Barber or Ronald Jones, and we still don't know what the split's going to be there or who's going to get touches, is to strictly just talk about how bad Atlanta's been in that area of the field. You can't talk about anything as a starting block point based to talk about in these Bucs back guys. Ronald Jones, Peyton Barber, you can't. It's just you're literally blind playing the matchup, which generally leads to poor results.
I mean, what if I said that Ronald Jones was under 4K on DraftKings, though?
I mean, you can mix him in a GPP. I don't have anyone faults like that's the typical, but you can't form an argument for any of those players on their own merit outside of Atlanta and the game total.
That's like the biggest rant I've ever heard you go on, Reeves.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it was kind of unbelievable. Reeves is usually just get quick, not too strong. He tells you how it is, but he doesn't just kind of go off. Evan, it was like you just morphed into Reeves' body real quick. So I'm assuming then, Silva, you do not like Ronald Jones this week.
No. I mean, no. I think that because the Bucs running backs do not catch passes, and Ronald Jones did not catch passes in high school, he did not catch passes in college, and he couldn't catch passes in the preseason, and he hasn't caught passes in his limited time in the pros so far. So why would we all of a sudden expect him to catch passes? We wouldn't. Peyton Barber didn't catch passes at Auburn and has not caught passes in the pros. So I think that, if we're going to try to be real sneaky, we might look at Adam Humphries as a super cheap. I know it's gross.
I mean, if the Bucs want to throw their running backs, they're doing the Falcons an ultimate favor because that means the ball's not going to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brate.
Jameis targeted Adam Humphries off the bench against the Bears more than any other dude. Just so you know, I am not playing Adam Humphries.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
I'm playing Cameron Brate for sure, but I just wanted to drop his name because I don't know. We're looking for little off the board plays every week, and
I mean I love my off the board wide receivers, but I got to draw the line somewhere, and I feel like Adam Humphries is a reasonable place to do it. Yeah.
Right, fair enough.
Well, let's talk about Cameron Brate because he's somebody who, if OJ Howard misses, Brate might end up being the chalkiest tight end on the slate. It's probably going to be him or Eric Ebron. If OJ Howard plays, though, he's actually cheaper than Brate, and I understand he's banged up, but Reeves, talk to me about Brate because I know you're all in on this guy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play Brate even if Howard plays, to be honest, just because Howard is basically playing with a metal leg, practicing with a metal leg, so we won't know how much he'll play. They can actually use both of these guys because, like Evan said, they don't throw to their running backs. And Brate is obviously a guy, him and Jameis have just had like an awesome connection in the NFL. Even last year, Jameis targeted him 14% of the time. Ryan Fitzpatrick was 9%. Brate has he's fifth in all tight ends for touchdowns since 2015. He scored in each of the past 2 games. He's min priced on FanDuel, and he's 37 on DK. And you already talked about the slate. You kind of hit upon it with Eric Ebron being the highest priced guy. Gronk and Kelsey are on Sunday Night Football. Kittle and Graham are on Monday Night Football. Ertz is on Thursday night. This tight end slate from the main slate is dreadful. So why not just go for a cheap guy that has upside? I think even if Howard were to play, if you're going to tell me Cameron Brate's going to run 20 to 25 routes in a shootout, I'm probably just going to take that at the price compared to what's available for the field.
See, and I actually I understand that he's banged up and he's playing like on a metal leg, like you guys are saying. I want to play some OJ Howard though. Like to me, he's cheaper than Brate. More people are going to play Brate, and I can get OJ Howard, who when he has 2 legs is more explosive than Brate. Now that might not be this week, but he's probably just as explosive as Brate with 1 leg. Evan, do you prefer Howard or Brate?
Brate for sure. And I'm hoping that OJ Howard does not play because I want to use Cameron Brate at minimum price on FanDuel. Also, over the last 4 weeks, teams targeting tight ends against the Falcons have completed 15 of 17 passes, 88% for 167 yards, almost 10 yards per attempt and a touchdown. And that was to a pretty bad group of tight ends, Saints, Steelers, and Bengals with only 1/2 of Tyler Eifert during that span. So just a really efficient decision to throw to tight ends against the Falcons right now. Unsurprising because they're missing their middle linebacker and both of their starting safeties.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you want to pair up Winston and Brate together, I mean, you get a quarterback, wide receiver / tight end pairing at almost like the minimum, on both positions. So it's really a phenomenally cheap spot if you want to go. I think a lot of people are going to do that if Howard's out. So, maybe in tournaments, that's not the play you just want to go all in on. But at the same time, a lot of upside, especially, and a pretty big floor, honestly, in this matchup with those 2 guys. On the Falcons side, we already talked a lot about Julio Jones. Reeves, what about these other pieces? Because Devontae Freeman, he showed up on the injury report. Now it kind of sounds like he's going to be doubtful to play this week. So is it going to be Tevin Coleman? Is it going to be Etrell Smith? Like, are we talking about Calvin Ridley, Sanu, Austin Hooper? My boy came through for us last week. Reeves, who else do you like on the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hooper's in play again still, too. I mean, he's coming off that career-high game, 12 targets, 9 catches. The Bucs are lying a league-high 104 yards per game to tight ends. Hooper just keeps running into, these – you don't really want to play him because the volume can always not be there for him. But everything is – he's in these high game totals against teams that have just been getting wrecked by tight ends. So he still stays on the board. You mentioned that Devontae Freeman's probably not going to play. So that helps us out a little bit because when it was going to be a three-man, quagmire, it was going to be basically hands off. Now at least we know it's going to be Coleman, Ito Smith. That gives us something to work with here because Tampa Bay's been awful. They're 22nd in yards per scrimmage allowed to running backs. They're 28th in fantasy points, PPR points allowed to backfields per game. So the last time these two, it was just Coleman and Ito Smith. Coleman played 40 snaps. Ito Smith played 30. Ito Smith got 10 touches. I mean, you can take him cheap, in a matchup like this, and he can be like a Tariq Cohen factor. Coleman's price dropped way down now when Freeman came back, so he's way back on the board because his price dipped. He was starting for a few weeks, it kept climbing up. Freeman came back, it dropped. Now he's super cheap again, so he's on the board and there's a real high team total. He started one of his games against the Bucs last year when Freeman was out, and I think he scored 2 touchdowns that game. So, I mean, he's way back in play, especially now.
Evan, can we just, kick Ito Smith off the team? I am so sick of my running backs getting vultured by Ito bleeping Smith of all people. So, I know you know people. Can you get him kicked out of the league?
No, I have him in Dynasty, so I'm rooting for him.
Of course you do. Of bleeping course you do.
But, no, I mean, I think that it looks like Devontae Freeman's not going to play. So,
yes.
And it's not necessarily going to be, a Tevin Coleman dominated backfield as we've seen. But as Reeb said, Tevin's price came way down, man. And now he's in this, monster shootout game. He didn't really live up to expectations, I didn't think, during those 3 starts that he had earlier in the year. I played him every week, and I was pretty disappointed. Not like he killed me, but I expected more.
Yeah. He was just kind of a guy, he didn't kill you, but you were never doing anything with him.
Right. So I don't think that necessarily people are now aware of Ito Smith too, especially look at the box score. He was the only Falcons back to have a touchdown last week. He only had 4 touches and he only played 17% of the snaps, but people now know who Ito Smith is, and that's probably going to drive people away from Tevin Coleman. I wish they threw him the rock more. Why? I mean, I would love to see them throw him the rock more, get him in space. He can bang long plays. I don't really understand why they don't do that. They really under Sarkisian. That's another thing that Sarkisian has kind of not done enough of is get the backs involved in the passing game.
Yeah, it's really – and these were 2 guys, Freeman and Coleman, that, when it wasn't Sark, they were just catching so many passes. And, Coleman, we were playing him at 3,500, 4K every single week because, he had that game-breaking upside if he caught a long pass. And now they're just not seeing the targets. Pretty frustrating offense to be involved with. Reeves, anybody else? Are you looking at, Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu? Any of these other guys interest you?
Yeah, I mentioned Sanu off the top. I mean, he's still in a good spot. We talked about what he's been doing the past 3 games, getting involved. I mean, Ridley's always going to be in play. The thing about Ridley is I think he's got, 6 or fewer targets now in every game but 1. So, I mean, you just need those touchdowns to happen. The targets just haven't consistently been there. But listen, man, everyone's in play in this game. I mean, we kind of glossed over Matt Ryan, but, he's in such a great spot. I mean, the Bucs are so horrendous. You talked about they allowed 6 touchdowns to Trubisky. They are dead last in the most standout categories you would want to target a team to be in. I mean, they're 32nd in yards per attempt to quarterbacks. They're 32nd in yards per game. They're 32nd in touchdown rate. When you have those kind of peripheral stats, there's no one really in the passing game that's hands off because there's just going to be a plethora of points to go around.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to go wrong with the Falcons. And, of course, one of them will probably done, and I would imagine 3 of them are going to get there. If you can afford Matt Ryan this week, hey, by all means, go for it. With 6.8K, especially on DraftKings where there's a lot of value at quarterback, it's a tough price to pay. All right, let's move on to the Steelers at the Bengals. Total of 53. The Bengals at home, they're 2.5-point favorites. And I'll tell you what, Evan, this is a nice little start for you season-long guys out there. Nice little start of a stretch for Andy Dalton because he gets to play the Steelers. I think he plays Kansas City and one other just awful defense. So if you're starting Tampa, yeah. I mean, he's just if you're playing season long and Andy Dalton's sitting there on their waiver wire, go ahead and grab him real quick. But let's talk about this Bengals team because Joe Mixon, he returned last week, caught a touchdown pass, had over 90 yards on the ground. A.J. Green, obviously a phenomenal play. He's 8K as opposed to Julio Jones, who's 7.9K. When's the last time you saw A.J. Green more expensive than Julio Jones? So he's up there. I think C.J. Uzoma's sneaky this week. You know, made the little flop flag after everybody played him last week. Didn't really do anything. Uzoma's still down there at 3K, and I think he's interesting. Evan, who are you liking on the Bengals?
Yeah, especially because there's really no threat of Tyler Kroft anymore to C.J. Uzoma. Tyler Kroft looks like he's going to miss extensive time with a foot injury, to the extent that they had to sign another tight end, Matt Lengel, I believe off the Patriots practice squad or off the street. So C.J. Uzoma, he's got it on lock. He was 92% of the snaps last week, 28 routes run. You know, Kroft gets injured. You look at the tight ends that have faced the Steelers so far, just murked every week. You know, Austin Hooper blows up for 9 catches. Week before, Ravens tight ends had 10 catches. Week before that, the Bucs tight ends had 9 for 106 and a touchdown. And Kelsey, of course, crushed them in week 2. You know, I think that the target expectation for C.J. Uzoma is probably like 3 to 6, you know, so that's a definite concern. You know, that's really the primary concern. But if we can get him close to minimum, he's in a good matchup. He's on a team that ranks 3rd in the NFL in scoring, and he's going to be out there the entire game. So I think he's definitely interesting. Joe Mixon, you know, Marvin Lewis every week comes out, we're gonna share the backfield this week between Mark Walton and Mark Walton.
Nobody fell for that last week, did they?
I hope not. Joe Mixon comes out and has 25 touches, career high in snaps. The Steelers have actually been pretty good against RBs so far, holding them to 3.4 yards per carry, 3rd fewest receiving yards allowed to RBs. But again, you know, that high volume workhorse usage, you know, playing at home. They just don't trust Mark Walton. I mean, why would they trust Mark Walton? Because he stinks, or at least at this point he stinks. So, you know, I expect another 20-plus touches. Joe Mixon has 22, 22, and 25 touches. This game absolutely has high scoring potential against teams that rank 3rd in the NFL in scoring, the Bengals, and 4th in the NFL in scoring in the Steelers. What I want to hear is, because, you know, Reeves was the first one to parse this out. Everybody just for years said, Ben on the road, you know, you can't play him. But Reeves really was the first one to parse out that it's really just 1 p.m. Eastern time road games. It's not, you know, it's not the 4:30s. He's fine in the 4:30s. He's great in prime time. I mean, he's like at his best in prime time. Doesn't matter if he's on the road or at home. He's great in domes on the road. But it's the 1 p.m. Eastern time games outdoors where Ben has really fallen short. What do you think about him this week, Reeves?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. The same thing with Breeze playing outdoors. Like, there's really no way to tell you why this is happening, but the sample is so large that when these guys have moments where they're usable in these situations, those are the variant spots. You know, you look at Breeze. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when they played the Giants. He had gone his past 15 games outdoors on the road. He was a QB1 just 4 of 15 games. It's 11 games. You're getting like really subpar Drew Brees performance. Ben now has been a top 10 fantasy scorer in just 2 of his past 22 road games in early start times. He's thrown 2 or more touchdowns in just 5 of those 22 games. You know, over that span, the Steelers have hit their implied team total just 6 times in 22 games. It already happened in week 1. I would bet – I mean, listen, I already know – like, I do the betting. I'm banging the under in this game. I've already bet it. Because just the history is too strong here. I mean, even if I lose, I feel like the process was good. I think the Steelers are going to come under. I think the Bengals defense is getting a little bit better. They're getting a little bit, you know, they got Vontaze Burfict back. They're going to be okay. The Steelers really also just, like I said, in these spots just haven't come through. So, I mean, I'm banging the under. I'm treating Ben as a QB2 because, like I said, the variance spots when he hits in these, those are that's the outliers. When we're talking about a 22-game sample.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a year and a half of football, full season of football.
I'm glad you said that you're banging the under because I feel pretty strongly the same way, and I also feel pretty strongly that the Bengals are going to cover this game. I would probably take him more than just 2.5. Evan, what do you think about just this game flow in general? Are you as bearish on the Steelers as we are?
I mean, I don't like to hear that, and I know what all the data says, but I think that in a season long, I'm playing Ben. I'm not playing him this week in DFS. But it's ugly. It's ugly. The dude who's in the best spot is James Conner.
Yeah.
On the Steelers. The Bengals.
Even with Perfect coming back.
I mean, he's one dude out of 11. How
he's
much
an important guy, though. I mean, unless he gets kicked out.
He could get kicked out.
Yeah, he definitely might get kicked out. That's possible.
I mean, what's the probability? It's got to be like
15%.
Is this a situation where it's Talib Crabtree, where Perfect just goes straight at Juju and them dudes get ejected like the first drive?
Oh, that would be bad.
Rips his chain.
Yeah.
After what Juju did last year. After what Juju did to him last year.
Oh, please no.
But Perfect came back and they got roasted again by running backs in the past game.
Yeah.
Right.
So he didn't make a big difference in his first game. Kenyon Drake had one of his best receiving games ever. The Bengals have given up, and over the years as Perfect has been in the lineup, they have been very vulnerable to running backs in the passing game. I mean, it's not, it's definitely a product of scheme. It's a multi-year thing. It's kind of like the Falcons. They're not quite to the extent of the Falcons. But it's been relatively close to that. And James Conner, of course, top 10 among running backs in catches, top 5 in receiving yards. Bengals have given up 4.7 yards per carry to opposing running backs. James Conner obviously is game script proof. And people are, he was great last week, but I think that people are not going to play him this week in this spot.
Yeah, it's funny because I looked at this and I said, well, okay, if I think the Bengals are going to blow him out, can I really play the running back on the other side? And you look at James Conner's game log. He has targets this season of 4, 5, 6, 6, and 7. So like you said, I mean, he's game script proof, and I don't think many people are going to play Conner. I think more people are going to be focusing on the passing game. Guys like Antonio Brown, we talked about Juju. I think even James Washington's in play. And then Reeves, are we going back to the well with the man who let us all down last week in Vance McDonald?
I don't know what this thing is with you and James Washington. It's becoming a weekly thing now.
Yeah, he's my new Kobe Fleener. And by the way, we talk about the Steelers every week. Like, I'm going to talk about the cheap wide receiver on the team.
I know, I got it.
One like with Kobe Fleener, James Washington's going to be terrible for like 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden he's going to hit like a long TD, and we're going to be getting tweets from Crane like, "Oh yeah, I told you it was coming. I told you."
Yeah. I'm gonna be tweeting at Evan. I played him in season long, and Evan's just gonna go, "Dude, you suck at season long." It's just gonna be the exact same discussion we have every single week. But yeah, all right, Reeves. So who do you like on the Steelers passing attack? Are you going back to the Vance well?
No, because the Steelers really pulled one off on us that last week. Vance ran 19 pass routes. Jesse James ran 15. The week before it was 32-11, complete dominant split. And they just kind of went back to kind of like a, 55-45 last week. So we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know. I mean, the spot is good. I mean, the Bengals are 25th in points allowed per game to tight ends. And that's when – and you think about who they've faced. They're that bad, and they face the Dolphins and the Greg Olsen-less Panthers in 2 of their 5 games. That's how bad they've been. So, I mean, you could take a shot in tournaments. I think the floor is just – we saw last week. The floor is just too low. When you can play a guy like Brait or someone like that, or your guy O.J. Howard or Hooper, and probably feel a little bit safer. You can still play Antonio. You can't fade that kind of volume Antonio's got with his type of talent. You just don't fade that. You can look for him. He's not going to be a guy I'm going to play in cash just because his price and where I can get a guy like Julio or like even like a guy like Bob Woods maybe. I like Juju still. He's got 12 red zone targets. He leads the team in targets inside the 10. He's in play still. I mean, all of that is still good to go. The other side's pretty interesting to me because, we got the Bengals, and what they did last week was great. We love when we see rational coaching, especially when it caters to a team's best players. They move A.J. Green in the slot for almost 50% of his routes last week, 45%. A lot of people were like, oh, Xavier Howard, what's going to happen? They've been so good against wide receiver ones. Well, Bill Lazor said, we're just going to shuffle A.J. Green in the slot where he had, 3 catches and 50 yards, half of his game total. He's another guy that's got like flamethrower status at the Steelers at home. Kind of we talked about Julio and the Bucks. The only problem is all of those splits, none of them have come against Joe Hayden. And I don't know what the thing is with like, it's like career long for AJ Green. Him and Joe Hayden have like this ongoing history of where Hayden has just nuked him. And Hayden nuked Julio for 3 quarters last week to 0. Julio had 0. And so they played 8 times, Hayden and AJ Green. AJ Green has gone, he's been held to 51 yards or fewer in 6 of those games. He's gone over 3 catches just 3 times in those games. Obviously, you're not going to fade AJ Green. He's that Antonio Brown corollary of targets and talent. You don't fade that. But there's like a real bulk history of Joe Hayden really sticking it to AJ Green.
Are we
which
really
means Tyler Boyd is the dude.
Oh, you're on team Tyler. I just can't be afraid of Joe Hayden of all people. Like I just can't do it. I understand like it's got a history with AJ Green, but it's Joe Hayden. Like Evan, are we really should we really be scared of Joe Hayden?
Well, you know, and Reeves touched on both of these points, and I'm gonna give a hearty defense of Vance McDonald. Okay,
all right,
you know, because Reeves
I need it.
Reeves did not like Alfred Blue last week. And, you know, neither
Alfred Blue ran 45 pass routes. He ran for like 48 yards.
He played 79 of 80 snaps in that game.
I'll take the L. I did not see 45 pass routes in Alfred Blue's
please tell me
range of outcomes.
Please tell me people were out there tweeting at Reeves. Why didn't you know he was going to run over 40 pass routes? That would be amazing.
Because I had him in Thursday Mondays. And I ran one lineup in Thursday Mondays, and like every dude hit. And I had Alfred Blue, but they kept not giving him the damn ball on the goal line. You know, so I'm like, please.
To be fair, Evan did text me Friday. Evan did text me on Friday in the afternoon about Alfred Blue.
Alfred Blue. You ready for Alfred Blue week? But anyways, so I mean, Reeves noted that. You know, AJ Green ran the slot last week, 45%, and he had his most targets of the season, and he had his most yards of the season, and he also had a touchdown out of the slot in week 1 against the Colts. So they've been dabbling with this. Joe Hayden has played 4 snaps in the slot all year. So, you know, it's in all likelihood, you know, Joe Hayden, if like Bill Lazor needs to keep running him in the slot, keep him away from Joe Hayden, let him match up with Mike Hilton, who's pretty good, but he's real small. I mean, he's like 5'8", like 180 or something. Like he's so small. That's why I didn't get drafted out of Ole Miss. For Vance McDonald, so last week, Antonio Brown was the only dude on the Steelers who had more than 4 targets. So you know, it's hard, or I think maybe James Conner had more than 4. But certainly none of the receivers. Juju had 4. Vance had a couple. So, you know, it just wasn't a big volume game for the passing game in general. They played with a lead. That's going to translate to Jesse James playing a little bit more because he's the blocking tight end. I like Vance McDonald as a bounce back, but you know his salary probably went up just because of the ownership, right? They raised the
3.4K.
Okay, what is he on FanDuel, Reeves? Do you know?
Here, I can pull it up real quick. It's just one button away. Yeah. He is, drum roll please, he is 4.6K, so $100 over.
Okay, so he's the same as he was last week. And
yeah. By the way, you people don't pay up for tight end this week. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Like between Vance McDonald, I like Uzoma at 5.1 over.
Who are you paying for if you're paying up?
Oh, that's a fair point. Eric Ebron. 6.5K. See, I'll tell you what, that's right, guys. I'm here for you just sitting. I'm just a guy sitting in a chair saying, don't play Eric Ebron, and I would have been wrong most weeks, but not this week.
I just think that the game script is going to be different, is likely going to be different in this one. But you're right. I mean, I think he's going to be volatile all year. He's not going to be like a consistent producer. But I think that he's going to get more looks this week. And we've seen he's got like really good run after catch ability. You know, just get him the ball.
He kills guys.
Get him the ball like 4 times, you know, please. And he's going to break a lot of tackles.
Yeah. By the way, the chat is sitting here, you know, they're making fun of us, Evan. They're sitting here around here saying, you know, you can't really predict Vontez Perfect getting kicked out. You know, that's like worrying about foul trouble in the NBA.
They're joking around. Like, don't.
Well, yeah, that. And by the way, Breffett getting kicked out of a game is still more predictable than foul trouble in the NBA. I'm just going to say it. All right, let's move on to our third game. It's Kansas City at New England. We got the Sunday night. It's not a hammer anymore, but it's still a pretty massive total on Sunday night. 59 and a half.
Thank God it's not a hammer.
Yeah, I know, right? Can you imagine, like, if you're winning if you're sitting there winning the Millie Maker on Sunday and you say, all I have to do is fade the 60-point total between the Chiefs and the Patriots? God, that would not be fun. You would not end that night in a very good mood, I can promise you. So let's talk about this game because it just has everything. On the Patriots side, Edelman's back. Gronkowski seems fine. Sony Michel, he's a little bit banged up, but he still seems like he's going to play. James White, we all know the upside with him. And, like, Reeves, is there anybody not to like in this game, honestly?
I mean, yeah, it's another one of those games where you just try to find, like, what pieces are you not, like, really attracted to. I mean, it's really hard to make a case for Chris Hogan. He's in that matchup. Like, you can just say matchup team total. Dude has, 11 catches this year? Like, he's out there. He's on the field. Like, he's getting exercise. Like, he's exercising during the games. But, like, they're not using him. They're not using him to do anything. But, if there's a dude that's going to catch 2 touchdowns on a random game, who knows? We saw Dorsett, like, had his fewest number of targets and ran his fewest number of routes in a game last week as Gordon doubled his targets and routes from his first game. Gordon's still in an area where he's not getting enough burn to make you feel good, but you can take some swings. I mean, see what happens. I doubt he has the kind of ceiling, though, to, like, win you a tournament, like, even when he scores. Like, last week he scored, but what did you get, 10 points? Like, so, like, you could take a victory lap on that, but you're probably not going to get enough points out of him to really do something unless he makes, like, a really long catch and run. It's just one of these games. This game is the highest game total for an NFL game since 2004. And it's already moved up. It got hit. It started at 58. It opened at 58 and it's got pegged up.
Can you imagine, like, a team total opening at 58 and you just being better saying, "Oh, I can't wait to fire that over"? Like, that's just nutty.
It's hard to find a way, like, where, like, teams are going to slow each other down. So Patrick Mahomes, the past 2 weeks, has faced a little more pressure each week. Last week was the most pressure he faced since week 1. He's facing a defense that is the absolute worst in pressuring the quarterback. They are dead last in the NFL in sack rate. They just allowed a top 5 scoring quarterback week to a dude whose best weapons were Eric Ebron and Chester Rogers. It's just a real good bounce back spot for, I guess, if you want to call it a bounce back spot. The dude threw for 300 yards against the Jaguars. To just light up, the Patriots, defense. They're not going to put any pressure on this guy, and everyone here is going to benefit for the merrier because of it. Because we saw, like, when he doesn't get pressure in those weeks 2 and 3, what happens? Yeah,
bombs away. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a phenomenal spot for Mahomes, for Tyreek Hill. I even think Sammy Watkins can have a big one here. Evan, who are you in particular targeting in this one?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that Tyreek Hill is the number one dude, the buy low dude in Hermsmeyer's model this week, which is defense agnostic. Okay.
Well, everything's defense agnostic, Evan. It doesn't matter. Defense doesn't matter.
No, but I wanted to note that last week the number one dude was Odell Beckham, who threw a touchdown, caught a long one, almost had a third, but Bradbury knocked it out of his hands in the end zone. Went well over 100 yards. So, and I think that the Millie Maker has had each week someone who showed up in Hermsmeyer's air yards by
to be fair, it's not like, I'm not trying to discredit this, but to say Odell Beckham was underachieving to that point, or Tyreek Hill has been underachieving, isn't exactly something that we need to put airplane propellers on. And it's easy to pinpoint a lot of these the top guys here, because they're star guys getting tons of volume that just hasn't turned into results yet. And that's what we've had with Tyreek Hill the past 3 weeks, being under 60 yards and still getting all that volume.
We also have, the crazy ass road splits, which are just like, what the hell? Tyreek Hill on the road is like, the reverse Ben at home. And we also have the fact that the Patriots have like one of the slowest defenses in the NFL. They're really slow. Their corners are like bigger dudes, Gilmore and Rowe, when Rowe is healthy. Rowe's been out a little bit recently, but, not the quickest twitch dudes. And Tyreek Hill is the quickest twitch dude. So, from every standpoint, the forthcoming regression to the mean, this weird road game trend that keeps freaking hitting. And, the matchup from a matchup standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for Tyreek Hill and just sheer talent, and a quarterback that's willing to rip it and the friggin' high total. So he checks like every box in the book, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough not to like Tyreek Hill. And I mean, I'll tell you what, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill light almost, just like the deep threat with Watkins. I have no problem with him either. And Kelsey, of course, he's expensive, but you can always play Travis Kelsey. And on the Patriots side, I mean, are you jumping on Edelman here, Reeves?
I mean, we kind of talked about it last week that like the Chiefs have been playing a little better, limiting, slot production. They faced Manny Sanders 2 weeks ago. Last week, D.D. Westbrook was coming off of his best game, and he didn't do anything in that game. I think he only had 5 targets in a game that Blake Bortles threw 61 passes. But it's Edelman. He's going to get his. I mean, the thing with Edelman is he's always more of like a high floor guy, like not one of these like huge, guys you really bank on in DFS to drop a 30 game, but, real high, safe floor. Watkins is looking good. I mean, I want to talk about the Chiefs' run defense for a little bit because the Chiefs' run defense is horrendous. Mm-hmm. And they keep scripting teams out of the run, but they just keep getting gouged to open games, and then teams can't run them. So the Chiefs have outscored opponents 59-9 in the first quarter this season, basically just racing boats early every game. They faced just 48 rush attempts in the second half all season long in 5 games. So the under 10 rushing attempts per game they're facing. The only teams below them all have had a bye week in second half rushing attempts faced. They're 32nd in rushing points allowed per carry. This is a game where I doubt they pull like way ahead. This is a game where, I mean, this is a game where you're going to see the Patriots stick with the run and 4 quarters of rush volume against this defense for the Chiefs, and they haven't yet faced that, in a game this season. So, I mean, like a guy like Sony Michel is in a really good spot, to really, we don't even know what type of ceiling a guy has against the Chiefs defense if he's going to get, 18 to 20 carries in a game and then catch, a few passes per game. So, I mean, this is a spot where maybe we see the game plan for the Patriots actually they know they can't stop Patrick Mahomes, mm-hmm. and they know they can run the football, and they really just light the Chiefs up on the ground. I don't know if they're really capable of doing that, but I think that they can come out and try to do that in this game.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them do this to the Colts, famously over the years. But it makes some sense. I mean, and this is the avenue where the game goes under. This is where the scenario where it doesn't meet expectations, and maybe stacking up a different game, you get an edge in that way. But, this is the way that it doesn't meet the expectations if the Patriots are able to control the game on the ground. They love Sony Michel. I mean, one of the most popular statistics for a few weeks there was just that when he was in the game, they were giving him the ball. Mm-hmm. His like touches per snaps were like the highest in the league. And then he really started to get volume and play more. And, we've seen he's been super, super productive. Like, they love this dude. And I love it when the Patriots backfield gets narrowed down to just 2 guys as opposed to like 3 or 4, because they just mash. And, you wound up getting like Sony Michel in like the 8th or 9th round, and he's like a borderline RB1, in season long. And James White, no one want to take him, and he's an every week starter, even in non-PPR. But the Chiefs this year, they have faced 47 pass attempts per game. That's almost 3 more than the next highest in the NFL. They have allowed the most receiving yards to running backs in the NFL. And they've allowed the second most receptions to running backs in the NFL. It's also possible that the Patriots try to do the Sony Michel thing and then it doesn't work. Hey, the Chiefs come out and Tyreek scores 1 and Kelsey scores 1, and all of a sudden it's 14-3, and it's the James White game the entire time. So I mean, that's like sort of hedging and not taking a stance, but it's not an easy game script to predict by any means, because we have two very high octane offenses and we have two very vulnerable defenses. And, a lot of what ends up happening in the game is probably going to be based on maybe what happens early in the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're playing that showdown slate, you need either one of Sony or James White. You can play both of them, but you definitely need at least one of them. I would not.
I think, man, both are such good spots.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's really hard to go wrong there with those guys. They're going to get touches. Josh Gordon, are we buying Josh Gordon, Reeves?
I mean, I already talked about Josh. Did you miss me talking about Josh?
No, I heard about it. I just want to make sure. Like, are you buying him? Like,
I mean, am I buying it? Like, not really buying, but I mean, sure. I can see you can sell me. You can tell me a story about it.
I have no story. I have no stories.
Yeah, I mean, he ran 18 pass routes last week. It was up from 9. He had 4 targets, up from 2. Made the splash play. You can see that there's a disconnect still between them. He was wide open on 2 of his targets, and Brady I don't know what the story was on either one, but there was an obvious disconnect, because he had catch. He murked his dude on the route. I don't know if it was a timing thing. Obviously I'm not going to blame Tom Brady at this point.
I know Evan's going to tell me I'm wrong, but Brady looks so washed. I know Evan's going to tell me I'm wrong.
It's the most Crane take we've had.
Yeah, Brady so washed up.
Reeves about to be late for the Josh Gordon dance, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, when Brady goes off tomorrow night and it's a 60-point total, so I'm sure he will. You can go ahead and tweet at go ahead and tweet at me. That's fine. Do your victory laps. He looked washed.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, they have the extra couple of days, to maybe get him more involved in the offense. He's been under 30% of the snaps, like Reeves said, not getting a lot of routes. But I mean, I would expect him to move up to the 50% range. He's been blocking well in the running game too. He's shown up as a blocker a few times. I get the sense, and knock on wood, but I mean, I think that he's kind of buying in. And the signs have been pretty positive so far. And the biggest weakness on the Chiefs, we talked about this, didn't we? They don't have any strengths on defense.
But their biggest weakness is defense.
Yeah,
the Chiefs' biggest weakness is playing defense. It's just it's just what it is. And it's a good thing they have the pieces to go out and try and outscore teams, because that is absolutely what they're required to do. Because there is no way this defense is stopping anybody, even a washed Tom Brady. All right, let's talk about. Go ahead.
They've given up the most 20+ yard pass plays in the NFL, and they just lost, maybe their best pass rusher in Justin Houston for multiple weeks due to a hamstring injury. So quarterbacks are going to have even more time. That's going to give, Gordon more time to get deep. That's going to give Tom Brady more time in the pocket, theoretically. And then at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the usage. Is he going to get, an increase in usage? And is he, are they going to connect? But I mean, from a matchup standpoint, it looks real hot. It's just, as Reeves, the foundation of what Reeves was saying is just that, hey, he has not been out there very much so far.
All right, let's talk about
some swings, take some cuts.
Cuts.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about some other quarterbacks on this slate, because, of course, we talked about the 3 big-time total games. There's one other quarterback for a guy that has a team with a massive team total, and that's Jared Goff, the Rams. Rams have a 30-point team total. They're facing a Broncos team that just hasn't been good defensively. Reeves, what do you think about Jared Goff this week?
I'm kind of sketchy on it because of Cooks and Kupp are, I don't know if either of those guys are going to play. And I don't, the line hasn't accounted for that to this point. Maybe they're not worried, but most often than not, guys have missed the week after a concussion. It's kind of been an ongoing trend for the last, a couple of years. So especially for a guy like Brandon Cooks, who obviously had the concussion in the Super Bowl and was knocked out and his hit was really bad. Kupp didn't practice today. It's I want to see what's going to happen. And Goff's one of those guys, I think in season long, you don't have to stream for him because he's still, he leads the NFL in passing yards. He's thrown for 300 yards in 4 straight games. But he has this weird fantasy lines because Gurley scores so many touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He's only been a QB1 in 2 of 5 games, throwing for all these buckets of yards, because when they get into the money zone, it's Todd Gurley time. I mean, Todd Gurley leads the league in rushing attempts in the red zone, inside the 10, inside the 5. So Jared Goff is like the opposite of Lance Arbor in Varsity Blues. Like he's marching him down the field, and then they're just letting Gurley like punch in all these scores. So he's not getting these scores. So I mean, it's kind of affected his ceiling a little bit. We've seen when he does throw the touchdowns, the ceiling goes sky high because the yardage is there. But I think that Denver was just in a really bad spot last week too. They were coming off Monday night, going to the East. Evan talked about this last week too. And they got boat race, just run out of New York. I think it'll be a little different this week. Them being at home, at Mile High, it's going to be a little different, especially if Cooks and Kupp don't play. I don't think they're going to win, but I mean, I could see that game being under the total if those guys don't play. But it elevates a guy like Bob Woods for sure.
Yeah, I definitely like Robert Woods this week. He's got a nice price tag at 6.9K. And if Kupp and Brandon Cooks both miss, all of a sudden Josh Reynolds, he's in play too, which is just an uncomfortable thing to say out loud. Evan, other quarterbacks you like this week? Who you got?
Case Keenum. Can we do the Case Keenum thing?
I can't do it. No. What? Are you kidding me?
I blacked out. What did I say?
Get out of here with this Case Keenum crap. Are you kidding me? Golly, that guy is dead to me. He is dead. Dead.
Fair enough.
Golly. I hope he gets replaced by Deshaun Kaiser somehow at halftime. I don't care.
Fly him in. Fly Kaiser in.
Yeah, fly Kaiser in. Say, sorry, you're no longer. Well, where is he at? Green Bay right now. I don't know. He's rotting somewhere. He and Case Keenum get a room together in hell. All right, so good for you. Anyways, Evan, you like Case Keenum? Who else?
Definitely Cam. And he played poorly last week. I mean, he really did not play well. I can't recall what his fantasy numbers were. But just watching the game, like he did not play well. It's one thing I've talked to Ross Tucker about it, and a dude named Hayden Winks did a little study for us last week, was teams coming off the bye don't necessarily, that's not always a positive thing. Ross, as a former player, he talks about like, hey, you get out of your routine, you go see your family, you come back, and you don't perform that well on Sunday. It's not just all about, hey, we're getting our body, freshened up. And then what Hayden kind of showed was that the performance was higher variance, coming off the bye. And we saw Alex Smith just, that was awful, dude. Oh my God.
He gets through him with Case Keenum and Deshaun Kaiser.
That team has not been able to figure out what they are week to week.
No.
They're losers.
They are.
That's losers. Who they are. They figured it out. They just don't like it.
Right. But I think that Cam is kind of in a bounce back spot. Now they're both these teams coming off the bye are playing each other, Carolina at Washington. I'm going to go back to some Cam plus McCaffrey. Didn't fully work out last week, but I like it a lot.
It is weird because that game is completely hidden too. Like you can scroll down the games and just not even notice the Panthers at Washington. Like I get it, and I'll tell you what, Cam was a massive disappointment for me last week because I had a lot of Odell teams and I just ran it back on the other side with Cam, which it halfway got there, just didn't all the way get there. Reeves, I kind of asked you about Goff and didn't ask you about any other quarterbacks that you like. Who you like out there?
I mean, we touched pretty much on everyone I like. I think I'm just going to keep chasing the white Russell Wilson whale. Eventually, there's going to be a game where he has to throw 35 times. I don't know when it's going to happen. It probably won't be in London against this Raiders run defense. But he's still playing like hyper-efficient football, and the Raiders have just been so bad against the pass and run in totality. They've just been bad everywhere. I'm just going to keep running some stacks out there. It's only because I want an excuse to play Amari Cooper in a tournament.
I know we got to move forward, but I wanted to hear your guys' takes on Eli tomorrow night.
I mean, every single time this game happens, I play Eli and I play Odell with them. Like I did it last year. They crushed it. Tomorrow's going to be no different. You just
Eli has smashed Jim Schwartz's D. Three of the 4 years. Last year he didn't even really have anything, and that we thought they were going to it was when they were like dead the whole year, and then they faced the Eagles and he threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what Odell went for, like
Over
200 yards.
No, Odell didn't even play.
Oh, that was Odell.
The second was when Sterling Shepard went off.
Went nuts.
Course.
And Sterling Shepard scored in every game against the Eagles.
Yeah, and by the way, he's back in play tomorrow night too with no Evan Ingram. I mean, he can play.
Yeah, I think Eli's interesting, man. I mean, listen, me and Eli have a no touch relationship. Like we're not friends in daily fantasy. But I wrote it up as positive indicators for Eli if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah, that sounds depressing. All right, let's talk some other running. By the way, you mentioned Russ Wilson. I get the Russ love. I think I might actually play the Raiders defense at near minimum price against that offensive line. I think I could do worse than that. All right, running back. Oh no, Reeves, don't shake your head, man. It's a defense. It's the most variant position out there. Like, who's to say Russ isn't going to take 6 sacks and throw a pick six at some point? It's London. You get the jet lag. You get all. I mean, I'm definitely willing to play a 2,100 defense in London. Evan, am I nuts there?
Is it Seattle
or Oakland? I'll play both of them.
Oh, okay. I mean, hey, do what you want, man. Just make sure that you do the Keenum, Jeff Hoyerman stack.
No. All right, running backs. Let's talk some other running backs. So, who you got for me? And don't say any of these Houston guys.
Definitely Christian McCaffrey. I'm just looking here. I mean, I don't know, man. It's pretty ugly. I mean, you can go back to Yeldon for sure.
What about Dalvin?
No, I mean, is he even going to play? I want to play Latavius. Actually, Reeves texted me about that today. I want to play Latavius. Melvin Gordon is in a great spot. You know, he's been catching a ton of passes. The Browns blitz at the highest rate in the NFL. And, Phillip Rivers can end up just dumping down and Melvin Gordon all game long. I think that Isaiah Gross is back in play to some extent. I think that Bilal Powell is kind of sneaky against the Colts. But those are some guys, Gurley. I mean, I'm playing Gurley every single week, I think, in cash until something prevents me.
Do you know how expensive he is on DK?
All right. Well, I won't play him in cash on DK probably, but
he's $10K.
I'll play him in cash on FanDuel until he gets just out of control because, I mean, first of all, the Broncos have gotten crushed in back-to-back games on the ground. And if no Cooper Kupp, he hogs a ton of scoring position usage. So that gives them even more incentive to just force the ball to Todd Gurley in scoring position. So I think that, I'm going to try to force him into cash, going forward.
I mean, I know this game's really ugly, but can we go back to TJ Yeldon?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's a 40-point total, and I like the under, but I mean,
did you see what Alfred Blue did to the Cowboys?
Yeah, he ran over 40 pass routes. Reeves, I know what he did.
Yeldon's 90, 100, 122 yards from scrimmage the past 3 weeks.
No, I like Yeldon this week. It's so weird to like a road team and a road running back in a 40-point total, but I don't hate it. All right, real quick, let's touch on some wideouts. Reeves, who you got for us? What wide receivers are you looking at?
They were pretty much all in the games we talked about. I just want to add a couple more running backs because it's such a good running back week. We didn't even talk about Chris Carson, man. Dude's got 124, 127 yards this past 2 games. Oakland has just been horrendous defensively. They're 29th in rushing points allowed per game. The backfield 24th in yards per scrimmage. He's 4,400 on DraftKings. That's going to be real tough to let go. And I want to talk about the Bears guys real fast, man, just because the Bears guys are in an awesome spot other than being on the road. I know Jordan Howard it left a bad taste in people's mouth because they had a game where they scored 48 points and he wasn't really involved. But Miami has just been battered on the ground as well. We talked about Mixon coming off injury and got him. The Patriots ran all over them the week before. The Raiders ran all over them the week before that. The Titans backfield actually ran for over 100 yards on the Dolphins. And they're terrible in guarding back. They're another team where their linebackers are just awful in coverage. So we saw what Tariq Cohen did. I mean, those guys are really cheap. Jordan Howard's he's higher priced than DK than he is FanDuel. And then Tariq Cohen is dirt cheap on both sides. Obviously, you're not playing, either of those guys in cash, but I think it's a really good spot for both of those guys to combo up because I don't think that Mitchell Trubisky is going to have a 6 touchdown passing game again.
How could you doubt the Trubisky? How can you doubt him? No, I'm just kidding with you. By the way, the last time Minnesota Vikings were 10-point favorites at home over a crappy team, they lost to the Bills. So, yeah, I get Latavius Murray, and I hope everybody else gets stared off if Dalvin misses. I kind of think Dalvin's going to play, and at 5.7K, I got a lot of interest in Mr. Dalvin. All right, real quick, whiteouts. Evan, who you got for us?
Definitely always wheeling and dealing Adam Thielen. Let me look here.
What about some Demaryius Thomas against the Rams outside?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I like Demaryius.
Marcus Peters is like the worst cornerback in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, he's given up the most touchdown passes of any cornerback in the league, trying to play through this calf strain. What do you think, Reeves? Let me look at the list.
You got downtown John Brown.
Yes.
Right back to him at 5.5K.
John Brown had 8 targets last week of 15 or more air yards. 8 targets of 15 or more air yards. Denzel Ward is the real damn deal for the Browns. And, Flacco missed him a couple times, but, man, that is an incredible amount of opportunity. John Brown leads the NFL in air yards. I mean, he is a prime bounce-back candidate here against Tennessee.
Yeah, well, I get it. It's not a great matchup for big plays against Tennessee. They give up 20-yard passes at the second lowest rate in football. But at the same time, if he's going to get 7 targets down the field, I don't really care how good the other team is. I'm willing to take a shot.
You only need one.
Yeah, exactly. Reeves, is there anybody else for you other than Amari Cooper?
Nothing much. Yeah, I think it's a good week to get back on the Cooper coaster, though.
Oh, God.
Yeah, listen, man. We've done a good job at nailing which weeks he's going to be good or bad, though. To be honest.
We just pick bad every week.
Yeah, just pick bad. No, he has 2 really big games though. He's got 2 games where he's over 25, PPR points.
Dude, I won the Millie with Amari Cooper, and I hate the guy.
He's 5,200. He's 5,200 on DK.
Yeah, that's a lot to pay for a headache.
This is Corey. This is the Corey Davis, man. Obviously I'm making the call, not you, so it's not going to happen. But
no, I think Amari's fine this week for 5 points. That's just too cheap for him. But the dude has trouble focusing anyways. Now he's going to be in London.
How about in that same game? Do you want a min price take a shot on Martavis Bryant?
Yes.
No.
What, dude? Come on.
He ran 10 routes last week.
Yeah, and he had 3 catches for 90 yards, and somehow didn't get in the box.
And the week before, he had a 50-yard touchdown that he just watched hit his face.
Yeah, and he dropped a quick screen. And last week, he lost a fumble at midfield. I mean, how are they even running him out there just so they can prove that? We
it's the Raiders.
I just want to know how a guy has 3 catches, average over 30 yards a catch, and doesn't get in the end zone.
I want to know how John Gruden has a 10-year, 100-year contract.
Doesn't he own part of the Raiders now, too? It's just –
essentially.
Way to go, Al Davis. Bravo. Between him, the loser has to stay in London between him and Pete Carroll. I like that idea. All right, guys, we got to get off here. It's been a lot of fun. We went a little bit over. Sorry to David back in the studio, but hey, we're having a good time. But for Evan, for Reeves, I'm Eric. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thank you, Kobe Fleener, for watching. We'll see you later. Peace.